So, is the tide of wokeness shifting? I don't believe that it is. I believe what we're seeing happening are the general public are rejecting it more and more. The nerds, the culture observers, the culture consumers, they've seen how this has destroyed entertainment. And they said no a long time ago. But now the general audiences are getting, I don't even think they're getting anti-woke. They're just getting bored because this stuff isn't as creative as the stuff that wasn't woke. But I think the best way to put it is the way that Chuck Dixon put it. This is an article from Bounding into Comics from March 8th, 2023 by John F. Trent. And he says, longtime Batman writer and the creator of the villain Bane recently shared his opinion that he does not see woke entertainment going away anytime soon. Dixon shared his thoughts in the 134th episode of Ask Chuck Dixon, where he was asked by fan Greg Waller, do you see the pendulum swinging back in the direction of less wokeism and leftist agenda in comics or movies, TV, etc. in general? Or is it here to stay, or does it get even worse? Dixon answered, I don't see the woke going away. I really thought with Discovery Channel taking over Warner's and cleaning house a bit, and Paramount making it clear that they are not interested in pandering to any particular political ideology, and a number of other outlets making changes and firing people who were clearly untalented and only got their positions because their minds were in the right viewpoint of the left-wing intelligentsia. Despite all that, I still see more and more woke material appearing. Maybe woke is a demographic now. I don't agree that it's a demographic. It's just a baked-in ideology. It's something that these companies, by and large, agree with, and the large majority of people who are involved in making decisions agree with it. It won't take, for instance, Disney just firing Bob Iger. They have to fire a whole swath of people on the board. They have to fire a whole bunch of producers, directors, writers. They have to fire a whole ton of people. It's just like what I've said with Star Wars. Firing Kathleen Kennedy is not enough. They need to fire a whole bunch of people who are involved with creating and crafting those stories. If you want to call them stories, I call them stories in quote, because their focus is not entertaining, it's ideology. Entertainment is a consequence of that in their minds. I can't think that there are many people that are looking for this kind of entertainment when you sort of nod along rather than actually enjoying yourself, he asserted. You're just sort of in agreement with what's being presented. Like, I don't find this particularly funny or engaging or suspenseful, but I'm in sync with the creators. To me, that's not entertainment, certainly not escapist entertainment. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. It's not entertainment. And that is why people have walked away, because people know what entertainment is. We're not stupid. There's been close to 100 years of movie and film entertainment from these companies. And now, in the 2020s, they've decided they're going to abandon entertaining first and put ideology first. And they haven't learned a thing. Disney especially hasn't learned anything. They're still making mistakes. They just announced another diversity hire for ESPN. And it shows that they're not understanding where their problems are coming from, number one. Number two, they're completely alienating their customer bases. And number three, they are dead set on being the type of company they said they were going to be, which is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Which means nothing in the grand scheme of things. It just means we're going to preach to you about left-wing values. That's all it is. We're going to preach to you about values that people on the left tend to like, and people to the right of the left don't tend to agree with. So we're going to alienate all them. We think they're bad people. Such business illiteracy. You know, you think of the people who founded companies like Disney. You think of Walt Disney. You think of Jack Warner. You think of, I forget who it was who founded Paramount. These were businessmen. They went where the money was. But Walt Disney in particular had a vision in mind for family entertainment, and that's what he pursued, and he was wildly successful in doing so. And the people who have subsequently taken over the business have completely abandoned that. They're not interested in either money or the family audience. They're interested in preaching to general audiences as much as they can. In 50 years, Disney is not going to look like the same company, and it might not even exist in 50 years if they keep this trend up. He then reiterated, I don't see it going away, and then of course you've got a large segment of the population simply isn't aware that they're being propagandized to, even when it's extremely obvious. that it's pure propaganda. That's another problem. That's how propaganda works, is people don't realize they're being propagandized to. They don't look at an element. They don't look at, like, the episode of, what is it, Baymax, where it's centered around tampons and a gay relationship. They don't look at that and say we're being propagandized to. They just write it off as, oh, well, this is an uninteresting episode. But they are being propagandized to. They're talking to kids about issues that their parents should be talking to them about. Plain and simple. They're taking the place of parents. They're trying to be the moral and ethical busybodies of society. And people do not like that. He then pointed to the Walt Disney Company. Disney in particular seems to have doubled and tripled down on woke material about sexual identity and the skewed view of America seen through the lens of race alone. Things like that. They've continued to lose just buckets of money. I mean hundreds of millions of dollars because they adhere to this schedule. Exactly. Something I've pointed out multiple times. Disney has lost more money than they can fathom. And they're still doing it. They are still doing it. Like I said, they just announced a diversity hire for ESPN, being in one of the lead positions at ESPN. I've suggested that they should sell off ESPN, but apparently no. And I've suggested they sell off ABC. In fact, I might make a video talking specifically about what I think that they should do. And I really thought, at Warner's, they pulled a lot of the woke material or canceled projects that were woke because they knew they were money losers at the beginning, he observed. But I mean, Disney did a major release of Strange World, which contained a lot of really, there's no other way to put it, like grooming aspects for young children, and they released it, marketed it, and everything else. It actually was. And I mentioned that episode of Baymax, the Big Hero 6 spinoff, which was really disgusting. And then they've got the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, where they did a slam poetry of how slaves built this country, which they didn't. It's I think, their biggest animated feature failure ever. I mean, it lost hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. No one went to see it. I think there was an active campaign not to go see this movie, word of mouth, and Disney promoted it as woke. I think that's partially true. I think another reason is that a lot of people said they didn't even know that movie existed. Disney didn't spend a dime on marketing, which is probably one of their ways of saving money, but it's illiterate. When you've got entertainment that's not of an established property that nobody knows about, you need to advertise it. Not after the fact, before the fact. He then asked, so I don't know at what point does Disney bring themselves to their knees to a point where they're open to a hostile takeover by another company? I mean, when you are hemorrhaging this much cash, your shareholders have to be looking for a way out, right? You would think so. You would definitely think so. You would think that Disney would at some point realize that they've got to make money and that they've got too many different sectors to afford to lose money. The parks are losing money. The entertainment sector's losing money. The cruise ships are losing money. Their streaming is losing money, which is, I guess, a part of the entertainment sector. They're not creating anything new that people want. There's a stigma around the company. There is a negative image surrounding the company. And despite the fact that Disney shills and diehards are still trying to cover for them, they can't get rid of the black eye that they've got. It's not healing like it should. That black eye is plastered on there. They got hit hard. And so they're not making a conscious effort to go back to general audience entertainment. They're not making a conscious effort to make new animated series that are both for kids and families, that don't contain ideology, that they're just simple entertainment. They're not making animated films that do that. And the animated films that they do make all look the same. You can't distinguish a regular Disney animated film from a Pixar film. They use the same animation style. They don't use a traditional 2D animation style in any of their films. The last film to do this was Princess and the Frog. You would think they would do more of it, but they've completely given up the ghost. And I think that's because of Illumination and DreamWorks. Illumination and DreamWorks have both gone this route, so Disney wants to go this route. But Illumination and DreamWorks are better at it, and they create better stories. The Super Mario movie, for instance, is going to be a much better film than anything Disney puts out this year. Easily. And I'm not entirely sure that I want to go see that movie. I still haven't made up my mind. Dixon then speculated maybe what has to happen at Disney is for them to get bought by somebody with some common sense, who wants to once again appeal to a general mass audience. Let's face it, Disney's not making art films. They're making films for a mainstream population. They're making movies that everybody should want to go see, not just people who vote for the same people they vote for. This is the most obvious strategy and something that I have suggested for a long time. So I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Clearly, Chuck Dixon, somebody who's been in the entertainment industry, somebody who's made legendary comics and created a legendary comic character, he understands this. A lot of people understand this. Disney doesn't, because they're so obsessed with pushing ideologies by radical people. They've got so many radical people on their board of directors. They've got so many radical people who are producing, writing, directing films and television for them. Because they're in California. They're in a California bubble. They're in a Hollywood bubble. And they cannot see outside of that bubble. They think that what they want is what everybody else wants. They think the general population wants DEI. The general population does not want DEI. Even those who agree with DEI as a principle are saying, no, I just want to be entertained. Plain and simple. They criticize it for different reasons than the other political side criticizes it for, but they still criticize it, and then people don't go to see it. They're losing entire swaths of people. They keep doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on bad decisions. I knew when Iger came out and said, well, listen, it's clear the Disney parks aren't making a lot of money, and it's clear that Disney Plus is too expensive. Well, he basically said the Disney parks are expensive, Disney Plus is expensive, so we're going to cut back on production. But he continued down the path that he started. He didn't say anything like we're gonna stop pushing DEI, or we're going to put DEI content in its own category, so that way we're not spending as much money on it, but we can still produce it and still say we're a company that makes that sort of thing. But we're going to put the forefront focus on general audiences. It's amazing. I don't understand. Hopefully, my hope is that shareholders with Disney are going to start dropping out. They're going to say, I'm done, because you guys have no strategy. They have no business plan. Each investor meeting goes, one after the other goes worse. Each one is subsequently worse than the other. It's terrible. As far as business acumen, it's like nobody has any, and they're constantly making excuses. They've got a plan, quote unquote, but their plan is just DEI. And so they're not doing anything to have an actual cohesive business plan. One business plan I've suggested is take advantage of ABC. If you're going to focus on general audiences, start there. Start from the very bottom. The thing that people can have access to for free. You can get ABC over the air on antenna. They can put on game shows. They can put on sitcoms. They can put on animated series for both kids and adults. From their afternoon to late night. Every night. They could do Saturday morning cartoon blocks. They could do like a Disney afternoon again. And preview content for Disney Plus and Disney Channel and all of that. They can use that content and they can simulcast it to Disney Plus. But they can get it out there to people and make it up with advertising revenue and get eyes on their content again. But ABC is just The Bachelor, The Good Doctor, whatever other drama nonsense, Shark Tank, and then a whole litany of news programs. I think one day I was looking at it was just a repeat on my ABC affiliate. It was just a repeat of news programs over and over and over again. It's a barren wasteland of a network. It's amazing that they haven't sold it already. Warner sold CW after they completely failed with just front-loading it with DC TV shows that weren't making profit. They sold the CW, and they're still running out the Arrowverse. The Flash is the last one. And, well, I don't know if Lois and Clark is a part of that or not. But they've sold it, and they're refocusing their programming. The new owners have refocused things. They've looked at what the demographics are and the people who watch it, and they realized, wait a second, all this young adult pandering was useless because the young adults aren't actually watching it. So they completely canned any of the young adult programming that they had going forward for that network. So, and I mean, who gives a dang about any of that in the end? I don't want to watch movies that I agree with the agenda of movies that are devoid of any real entertainment values, simply because, yeah, I agree with that guy. I appreciate his stand on corporate taxes, so I'm going to watch this movie he made, even though I'm bored stiff. No, obviously most of the public has rejected this, whether consciously or subconsciously, he noticed. Exactly. He's got the right idea. He understands that when it comes to entertainment, you need to entertain. And despite the fact that Disney has admitted this, they're not sincere about it. They're just saying what they need to say to get the press off their back, because they're starting to get pressure from the press because they're getting all of this bad negative attention from the press, from YouTubers, from bloggers. They're getting all of this negative attention. People are associating Disney with trash when they used to associate it with quality. People have often said that they shouldn't be called Disney anymore. I suggest they rename it Buena Vista Entertainment. Why not? They used to have Buena Vista Distribution. Just make the whole company Buena Vista Entertainment. Keep the Disney font so people recognize it. Use the Disney label for stuff that Disney objectively created, but have the rest of it be called Buena Vista Entertainment. Because Disney doesn't deserve his name to be attached to this. This was not his vision. It wasn't. They cannot argue that Walt Disney would have liked any of this. Walt was not a man concerned with politics, by and large. He was only concerned with communism. He was anti-communism, and for good reason. He understood the dangers of communism. These people have gone full-on communism. His enemies have effectively taken over his company. That just makes me sick. Predicting a possible counter to his comments, Dixon said, "This could all be misinterpreted that I'm just an old guy and I don't like change, and I don't like to see things happening that are different than what I expected. But nothing could be further from the truth. And this is true for you, and it's true for me." He's exactly right, because what they'll do is they'll say, oh, you just don't like change, or you just don't like women, or you just don't like minorities. They've boiled it down to, it's just different and you don't like what's different. No, different isn't always better. Progress for the sake of progress isn't always better. At the end of the day, progress for the sake of progress isn't progress at all. It's just moving away from what works because you don't like what works. That's what it boils down to. The people at Disney do not like... People at Disney didn't like Splash Mountain, so they said, let's retheme it. And then when the public had backlash and outcry, they basically ignored it and laughed at them. That kind of snobbish disregard for your customers is business suicide. You don't mock your customers. You don't disregard your customers' concerns. You don't try to placate them and then just do whatever you want anyway. You're going to see losses. In a time where they're losing money hand over fist, they decide to take one of the most popular attractions of the last 30 years and completely retheme it to something that doesn't make any sense, instead of making an attraction for those characters somewhere else on their property and leaving Splash Mountain alone. Not only that, but they destroyed all of the artifacts of Splash Mountain. They have contempt for it because they believe it falsely to be racist. And so when they got backlash, and I heard people trying to defend Disney in the comments, especially on Facebook, it was kind of disgusting. People were saying, oh, you people are ridiculous. You're just whiners. It's like, no, we're not going to give them our money because they clearly have contempt for us. This is a move of contempt for us and their own political self-righteousness. This is not a smart way to run a company at all. They have no plan. I've already suggested 2 or 3 plans to fix the company. One of the things I think they should have done is they should have continued with the idea of what Disney MGM Studios originally was. Disney MGM Studios, they had a whole bunch of sound stages and they were recording programs in the late 80s, early 90s. They were starting to record stuff, but they ran into problems with sound. What they should have done is they should have built that stuff further away. And they should have built a backlot further away and kept that sort of production facility sort of tour thing. Because I think people did like that. But then they just stopped programming. And they started creating artificial rides and things in the place of those sound stages. And they became just another generic theme park. The idea of a hybrid of a production facility and a theme park can work. But you've got to make the production facilities, you got to incorporate sound into that, knowing there's going to be a bunch of people. So just build them slightly further away from all of the noisy attractions. They thought they could build them all in the same place. It turns out they couldn't, because they had a full back lot. They had they went on the back lot ride. I wish I had gone on it. When I wasn't going on too many rides when I went to Disney, because I was kind of sheepish about rides. I wish I had gone on the back lot tour. I really wish I did. But I wasn't sure if I would be able to handle it, because I was still fairly young and I was like wary of getting hurt on rides, and there's a lot of things I wish I had done at Disney at the time we went, but can't look back now. But as far as a business strategy, they can start producing things outside of Hollywood, not have to worry about Hollywood's taxation. And it was a good plan initially. It's just they made some missteps in the design, and they just abandoned the whole idea. Now it's called Hollywood Studios. It doesn't even make sense. Why is it called Hollywood Studios? You might as well retheme the entire park. If they're not going to do any actual Hollywood theming and production, what is the point? It's just another Epcot. It's just another it's just another Disney theme park. But when it was called MGM Studios and later Hollywood Studios, they were actually producing stuff there. I think Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was there at one point. They did the Mickey Mouse Club. They did a whole bunch of stuff. But they've completely abandoned that, and it's just mind-boggling. And I don't think it was because it wasn't working. Who knows? He went on, we've always had diversity in entertainment over recent years, recent decades. We've had diversity in entertainment. Entertainment that reflects societal change and, more importantly, reflects who lives here in the United States or what part of the population would be in the story. Exactly. Natural diversity. Nobody brings attention to it. It's just natural. It's just the state. The entertainment, it reflects where the world is at naturally. They're not trying to push any specific agenda. And entertainment that did try to push any specific agenda back in the day almost always failed. So they didn't do it. You know? But now, they want to push, we need more black people at the forefront for the sake of it. Not because we have actual talented black people. We just want to find somebody who's got a semblance of qualification and put them on a pedestal and use them to deflect any criticism we get if the quality of whatever we do is bad. They're tokenizing, which is patronizing and offensive. More offensive than anything they're trying to combat, to be honest with you. So we've accepted diversity without being told it was diversity, without being told we're better people because we've accepted it, Dixon noted. We've just been presented with entertainment that didn't have a message, didn't have an ideology, and just happened to want to appeal to a wider audience, wanted to appeal to everybody. So it includes everybody in its entertainment, and it's not scolding or trying to virtue signal or whatever. It just is. This is perfect. This is a perfect summation of the way things used to be. Nobody is saying there wasn't any political messaging in any movies or things going forward, but it was based around the time that it was in, and it didn't have you take one side or the other in particular. People say, well, what about all the propaganda in World War II? Well, that was an era of propaganda, and it's since been gone. It was banned by the government. I mean, it's blatantly obvious to me that Hollywood has completely dove headfirst into this. And because they have DEI, because they have ESG and ESG scores, they're not going to let go of this thing. They're just not. They'll do whatever they can to get that stuff up because they do get some investment money from doing this sort of thing. But it doesn't make up for the loss in overall revenue, which shows that they're not smart in the way that they conduct business. They're not smart in the way they conduct business. Say what you want about Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner made some terrible choices at Disney, but his name came up. The Disney Renaissance happened because he allowed it to happen. Whether or not he wanted it, he allowed it to happen. He allowed good things to happen within the company. There were some blunders, too. Some of his expansion of the parks was way too ambitious. But Bob Iger is doing the other thing where he's absorbed multiple properties and he's front-loading Disney with them to the point that people are being overwhelmed with content and it's not of quality. He's allowed Star Wars, the name of Star Wars, which had an established lore, established canon, and expanded universe lore that they could have drawn from. He threw all of that in the garbage. And he said, we're going to start over and do it our own way. And their way's been terrible. And so the fans have gone, nope, we're done. And he's like, but the general audience will. No, the general audience doesn't care. You know, the general audience has an interest for a moment, and then it goes away. It's the fans who keep it going. They keep the hype, the discussion, and all of that going. When the fans walk away, you've got nothing. You've got an empire of dirt. Plain and simple. So, I'm going to link this article down into the description of the video, and you can read the rest, because I think Chuck is absolutely on point here. I think that he's made a very good statement in terms of contrasting what entertainment was and what entertainment is now, and the fact that Hollywood just is not willing to let this thing go. They might be forced to at some point because so many people are walking away. I've walked away. I only talk about the old stuff that Disney did. If I purchase anything Disney, it's the old stuff. And even then, they're starting to censor things. Which is why I tell people, if you like old Disney media, get old physical Disney media. Convert your VHS tapes to a DVD format, so you can watch them that way. Get what you can that's uncensored. Because Disney is on a crusade, much like the rest of Hollywood is on a crusade. I hear people, like, even Dixon said Warner's, he thought Warner's was going to turn a new leaf, in Paramount and Sony. No, they've all come out and made similar statements to Disney, saying they're devoted to this cause. Sometimes they'll come out and say, no, we're really not, but that's just to pay lip service and get people off their backs. They're all in the same bubble. They're all competing with each other as they have been for the past 100 years or so. They're not giving this thing up. They won't last another 100 years if they keep going, because they'll start losing so much money. They'll start asking for government bailouts. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of woke entertainment. I just want general entertainment that isn't divisive. I want them to honor the past legacies of characters and not look at everything that came before them as racist and sexist and istophobic. I want them to just accept that there was good entertainment in the past and to not let their modern sensibilities ruin it for the rest of us who just do not care, who do not see the past as evil. But they've got a moral superiority complex, and until that goes away, they won't do anything, and I won't proactively give them money. But let me know what you think, folks. I thought this was a good article. Do you think the woke tide is shifting? Do you think people are going away from it? Do you think that people are just rejecting it outright, just as general audiences? What do you think is going on? This has been Super Koopa with another Koopa Talks. I will see you guys next time. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.
Blah, 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 blah.